Okay, so what is this? What day are we in? That must be like day 45 of lockdown. Luke's had to have a haircut by Mummy. It's a bit rough. Your turn next, isn't it, Rich? Makes me so serious. Okay, just pretend and look bored again. Pretend you're enjoying it and look bored. Mat Waugh, The Fun Factor, Chapter 3. Dinner's ready! Melissa was standing at the bottom of the stairs. She was now wearing jeans and looked much better, more normal, even a bit like a mum. She could tell she was still new though, and a bit posh, because she called it dinner instead of tea. What do you call it?
Both.
The meal at 6 o'clock.
Both.
For once, it was nearly as good as Dad's. Melissa had put cheese and breadcrumbs on pasta and put it under the grill until it was golden, bubbly and crunchy. I was going to do a salad, she said as we sat down, but it seems you've run out of vegetables, or anything green, or anything fresh. She looked at Dad sternly, though her eyes twinkled. I am surprised, said Dad, not looking surprised at all. I think maybe the rabbits ate it all. We don't have any rabbits, never had. Dad put his phone on the table, but she reached out and took it, placing it in the fruit bowl alongside her own. You too, Shannon, she said, holding out the bowl. New rules for meal times. Shannon looked at Dad, who shrugged. Reggie and I grinned. We didn't have our own phones. Shannon scowled and harumphed, but dropped her phone in. During the meal, the fruit bowl sometimes buzzed or pinged. Dad or Shannon looked over or at each other, but neither of them dared get up to check. We still weren't used to meet at meal times with Melissa, to be honest. Before she arrived, there had been 5 long years when it was just Dad, Shannon, Reggie and me. That's 5 years without Rosemary Batty, aged 38. Rosie, as everyone called her. Rosie, mother of Thora, that's me, and Reggie, that's my brother, and stepmom to Shannon. Rosie, who took a taxi to hospital to have her tonsils removed and never came home. 5 years since Rosie's photo was in the local paper. 5 years, yeah. Her arm wrapped around Dad at a wedding, above the headline, Teacher's Shock Death Prompts Hospital Inquiry. 5 years of questions and stares, and people saying, poor you, and it must be so tough. 4 years since Dad had the experts decide that it was just really, really bad luck she died. That an infection she could have caught anywhere had caught her instead. And wouldn't let go of her. And wouldn't let her go, 3 years since Dad burst into tears again during tea, when Shannon said it wasn't her mum who died, so she didn't have to care. And Dad thumped the wall and we all started crying and Shannon ran screaming from the room. 2 years since her family... 2 years... I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm struggling to read here. Might have to get you to read instead. 2 years since he finally smiled when Reggie asked him to tell a mummy story, since he got a promotion at the frozen food factory. 1 year since he set up his online dating profile, and 6 months since Shannon found out and he allowed her to rewrite it and take control of his life. Melissa was Shannon's pick, of course. Dad and Shannon spent hours together, sat at the kitchen table after Reggie and I were supposed to be in bed, swiping through the options. Dad squinted at a profile pic. She looks all right. Her? She looks like she's chewing a wasp, Shannon replied. What about that one? You're joking. She'd eat you alive and ask for seconds. What about her? She looks lovely. You'd be lucky, Dad. She looks like a supermodel. Yeah, fair enough, Dad sighed. In any case, she's probably not even real. Or she's a long-distance lorry driver called Malcolm. Okay then, said Dad, after a pause. What about this one? She's a bit out of your league. Oh, okay then, said Dad, after a pause. What about this one? She's a bit out of your league too, said Shannon. I peered over her shoulder to look at the picture of a slim, serious-looking woman standing on a beach in a wetsuit. Nice hair, and if she can afford to go diving in a place like that, she must be minted. Sounds like a perfect match, said Dad. I reckon I'd look pretty hot in a wetsuit. Sweaty, you mean, said I. Dad noticed me for the first time. Hey, look at that, a free insult with every daughter. Go to bed. I took no notice. Said Shannon. She was zooming in on an image. Quite a few wrinkles. I reckon she's older than you. You might stand the chance then. Charming. Go on then, Cupid. Send her an email she can't resist. Tell her I'll meet her outside the International Space Station at 6 or at the Chinese restaurants in town at 8. Whatever works best. That's how it started. With a shirt ironed badly by Dad and then better by Shannon, and new shoes that he said rubbed on his big toe, he caught the 101 bus from the village green into town. The following day at tea, Shannon didn't waste any time. You got back early last night. Did you stuff it up then? No, smiled Dad. Or at least I don't think so. She's working on a big project, so she had to get back to her hotel to do some slides. Doesn't sound very promising or interesting. Did you kiss her? Reggie asked as he gnawed on a sticky toffee rib. Dad grinned. You did, shrieked Shannon. You absolute tart. Now, said Dad. A gentleman should never kiss and tell. Anyway, she's nice. Friendly. You'll like her. You've invited her here already? Yep, next weekend, said Dad, through a mouthful of sticky ribs. She's getting a taxi around lunchtime. Shannon dropped her knife on the plate with a clatter. OMG, you know it's Valentine's Day, right? She's after something. She's a bunny boiler. She boils bunnies? Asked Reggie, looking excited. Take no notice, said Dad. She's far too intelligent, but obviously she finds me irresistible. And besides, she hasn't got anywhere else to go because all her friends live down south. And she's staying up here this way for the weekend because of work or something. I'll take it back, said Shannon. You're a perfect match. She's demented and you're desperate.
You are extremely welcome.
What?
What's my phone saying I'm extremely welcome for? Weird.
There's not much.
I know. He waved his fork at me. I'm taking no notice. The path of true love stretches out before me. Pass me the laptop, Thora. Time to change my relationship status. And that was all Dad had to do. Tap an icon. But what about my relationship status? Because in a few weeks, Reggie and I went from being kids with a mum who died to kids with Melissa, who definitely wasn't our mum, but spent pretty much every weekend acting like one. Cooking, talking to Dad, taking us to the park, stuff like that. She'd turn up late on a Friday night and let herself in if Dad was on a night shift. Or she'd arrived on Thursday instead, and we'd find her tapping away on a laptop at the kitchen table in her running gear when we got home from school. She wasn't Shannon's mum either, of course. That would be Rachel. When Dad and Rachel split up, long before I was born, Rachel went back to New Zealand where she had grown up. But that That's as much as I can tell you because we never met her and doesn't have FaceTime and she doesn't use a computer. Maybe Shannon was in touch with her, maybe not. We weren't allowed to ask her about it. So Melissa, the new girl, was not a mum to all of us, but only Shannon made that crystal clear. What's for pudding? Reggie asked. He'd finished his cheesy pasta already. A big dollop of fresh air, I'm afraid, mister, said Dad. I got there too late. Gloria from IT bought all the ice cream for a brownies sleepover. It's no bad thing anyway, said Melissa. It's a myth that you need a pudding after every meal. No wonder this country's got such problems with childhood obesity. You could have bought it at a shop like normal people, said Shannon, ignoring Melissa. Have you seen their prices? Said Dad. Well, maybe we wouldn't need to buy our food from a factory shop if there wasn't an extra mouth to feed, muttered Shannon in her place. Muttered Shannon into her plate, sorry. Melissa and Dad froze, like a YouTube video on pause. Gravy dribbled off Dad's fork. Melissa started to speak, but Dad held his hand up. His chair squawked on the tile floor as he slowly got to his feet, watched by Shannon out of the corner of her eye. Well, he said in a dangerously calm voice, I guess there is one easy way we could free up a bit of budget. He crossed over to the blackboard on the kitchen wall where Dad kept track of Shannon's allowance because she was always asking for an advance. The figures, £40, £30 and £25, were already crossed out. Licking his fingertip, Dad drew a line through the remaining 20. There we go, Reggie, he said, but looking directly at Shannon. Sorted. You choose the flavour, I'll pick it up from the supermarket. Shannon's chair clattered backwards to the floor. Dad sighed and sat down as she slammed the kitchen door and stomped up the stairs. I'd like chocolate and strawberry and vanilla, please, Daddy, said Reggie in a quiet voice. Dad reached over with a smile and ruffled his hair. That girl, sighed Dad. What are we going to do with her? He picked up a spare rib and popped it in his mouth. He chewed it for a moment and then his face brightened. I wonder if I could flog her on eBay. Chapter 4. Questions. Even though Melissa had been staying the night more often, it was still a shock when I found her waiting outside school, dressed for a run. Reggie was careering around as usual, pretending to be a character from his favourite video game, Ogre Smackdown. Melissa waved. Hi, Thora. Did you have a good day? Hi, why are you here? I fancied a bit of fresh air, so I said I'd come. You don't mind, do you? Suppose not. I did mind, in fact. Everyone would see her, and tomorrow they'd be asking me all about her, crowding round and wanting answers. Answers I didn't have. I grabbed my rucksack. Can we go to the play park? It was a bright, blowy day, the sort that looks warm through the classroom windows but makes your ears sting with cold before you've reached the gate. Clouds skidded across the valley and a rippling patchwork of sunlight and shadows flickered across the steep face of the fells. We walked quickly across the playground and out to the crossing, our gang of 4 plus Izzy's and Charlie's mums. And Melissa, of course, though she walked behind on her own. We stamped our feet and chatted while curly-haired Sheila, in a day-glow yellow safety jacket, crossed slowly to the centre of the road carrying her battered old lollipop sign. Got a date for that hip operation yet, Sheila? Asked Izzy's mum as we paused. Yes, dear. Should be done by Christmas. You watch, I'll be doing cartwheels by spring. And with that, she painfully inched her way back to the curb while we skipped on down the road, through the swing gate and into the park. Charlie was flavour of the month at school because he had a supercharged new tablet and preloaded games pack. His mum brought it with her. We weren't allowed devices in class. The boys huddled near the climbing frame, shouting excitedly whenever someone got a high score. Izzy and I found a sheltered corner near the swings where she could show me Instagrams of her cousin in Australia. Only it turned out that her cousin wasn't taking selfies by the pool or hanging out with boys or anything like that. Instead, she was showing the world her favourite maths problems on a whiteboard. You're not going to get many likes for stuff like that, I said. I've already written up the equations into my maths project book, said Izzy. It's worth pointing out that there's no such thing as a maths project book at our school unless you're Izzy. I'm showing them to Mrs. Hooper tomorrow lunchtime. She's going to love them. Mrs. Hooper is in charge of maths. That's not a real like, is it? It's better than a like. It's an actual love, said Izzy, flicking her hair. I sighed. Reggie, Thora, let's go, shouted Melissa into the wind after about 5 minutes. She'd been sitting on the roundabout waiting for us, some distance from the other mums. The real mums, I mean. I said goodbye to Izzy and her crazy maths problems and joined Melissa. Don't you ever play games on the field? She asked us as we walked home. Like what? Well, like tag or hide and seek or... That's what we do at school, said Reggie. This is when we get to do what we want. But you must get bored standing around looking at those devices. She said the word devices like it tasted nasty. I looked at Reggie and we both shrugged. Nope, I said, and if we had our own phones we wouldn't need to look at theirs. A thought struck Reggie. When that happens he virtually wags his tail in excitement. Will you get us one, please? Not a chance, said Melissa. But any time you want to come out for a run with me, I'm all yours. Not likely, I said. I can always go round to Izzy's anyway. Her dad's got a treadmill with a screen attached so you can jog and play chess at the same time. Isn't the world a marvellous place, murmured Melissa, giving our sticky front gate a shove. I got the feeling Melissa wouldn't be picking us up again anytime soon. Can I just have a drink of water there, Rich? After I changed and padded downstairs in my slippers and found Melissa in the lounge, standing in front of our House 2.0, I should explain House 2.0 was Dad's big project. 3 years after Mum died, he had sketched the outline of a huge house in pencil on the wall, filling the space from floor to ceiling. It was a house like a 5-year-old would draw, 4 windows, a door, a roof with a chimney and a picket fence around the outside. Above the house he'd glued big capital letters from a magazine, House 2.0. And then gradually, oh so slowly, he started to draw each section in ink and fill in the details. He did it late at night after we were asleep. The outline was the first to be inked in, followed by a window. Then, over the following months, he started to furnish the room inside with detailed sketches, a toilet and a sink, followed by flowery wallpaper and a lampshade. Outside, he'd started to add guttering pipes and a chimney pot. The house didn't exist, of course, not in our village or down in the town or anywhere, but it would. It was a concept, Dad said, a family project. Our real house seemed to be shrinking by the week. Shannon's room was tiny anyway, and with all our stuff in it, the front bedroom that Reggie and I shared was pretty cramped too. So Dad was saving for somewhere bigger, somewhere new. And when the drawing was complete, when all the lines were solid and all the rooms were full, we'd have saved enough money and we could move and buy somewhere like House 2.0. The problem was clear. He wasn't saving fast enough. I'd be 80 by the time it was ready. If this were a real house, it would have no roof, nowhere to sleep, and the toilet would flush out of a hole in the wall. Almost nothing changed from week to week, so House 2.0 had literally become wallpaper, something to ignore when you were watching telly. Melissa was standing in front of it, tracing her finger over the wispy pencil lines. I stood behind her. He isn't doing very well, is he? Melissa almost jumped out of her skin. Goodness, Thora, you almost gave me a heart attack. Anyway, he's doing his best. He needs to rob a bank or something. I'm not sure your father is a bank-robbing kind of man, said Melissa. He'd probably get caught in his getaway car playing with the sat-nav. Maybe he'll get another promotion, what with his employee award and everything. Maybe, said Melissa, steering me towards the stairs. Now get yourself changed and come downstairs. I'll make you a snack. I did what she said, but I had a funny feeling I knew what was coming next, because she'd done it before. I was right. She lured me into the kitchen with celery and carrot sticks, and then bam! She hit me with a quick-fire quiz. Dad said she wanted to get to know us a bit better, and she certainly wasn't afraid to ask the questions, although Shannon wasn't answering any of them, so perhaps I got her share too. That day, her chosen topic was leisure. What did I like to do? Play video games. What was my favourite game? Race Max 2. What was my favourite game but not on the computer? I could not think of one. How often did my friends come over to play? Every day. How many friends do I have? 1 plus Charlie, but he didn't really count. What time did I go to bed? I told her 9 o'clock. What was my favourite TV programme? Robo Avengers, but I preferred YouTube. You choose the channel? The biggest person in the room. No, who chose the channel? The biggest person in the room. Right. Reggie came into the kitchen, made a face at the selection of snacks on offer, and walked right into her trap. He reached for a carrot. She pounced. What music did he like? What videos had he seen? What website did he visit most? How many apps did he know? When did he do his homework? In the playground before school, Reggie had said in answer to that last question, through a shower of carrot pieces. That surprised her a little. But it was true. Reggie might say and do some daft things, but there's a big brain in there somewhere. He just needs to turn it on. Dad has always said that the worst people he meets at work are the ones who never ask questions, because it means they're only interested in themselves. So in case Melissa thought the same thing, I tried a couple of questions too, as soon as I could get a word in. Where did she live? In a terraced house in a small Sussex village. On her own, yes. She used to be married to an engineer, but he died in an accident a long time ago. Where did she work? In London for the government. So why was she up here? Was she a spy? That one was Reggie. No, of course not. Just a civil servant, and they work all over the country on different things. What were her hobbies? Running, as if we hadn't guessed. Diving. I didn't tell her I knew that too from her profile pic. Reading. Books, mostly, not websites. Was she going to marry Dad? Reggie again. No answer on that one, but she blushed and decided that was enough questions for now. Maybe that last question put an idea into her head though. Later that night, I woke up needing a wee. I crossed the landing and for once I didn't stub my toe on the winch dock, which was still strapped to the banisters. Downstairs I could hear the telly. It was the unmistakable haw-haw voice of the new Prime Minister. He was blathering on about a return to family values, healthy bodies and healthy minds, a fresh start for the nation's youth, and other words that have plenty of sound but no meaning. He had been on TV every day since the election last month, on every channel, trying to get people to like him. But that was hard for lots of reasons. He had replaced a nice, normal woman who hadn't done much, but hadn't upset anyone either. He had been caught on camera using a wet wipe to clean his hands after he picked up a baby on a visit to a preschool, and he looked like a ripe tomato about to explode. I was about to walk into the bathroom when I heard Melissa say something from the kitchen. "I can't hear you," Dad shouted back, before flicking off the TV. "That's better. I know he's basically your boss and everything, but that man gets up my nose. I've never even met him. I'm really not that important," said Melissa, "but some of his ideas are sound." Her voice got louder as she came into the hall. I ducked back into the darkened bathroom. "So, have you then?" "Have I what?" asked Dad. "Have you thought about my idea?" "Uh-huh. You should. It's definitely worth thinking about." Dad was quiet. Perhaps he was thinking. Melissa returned to the kitchen. A teaspoon tinkled in a mug. The swing bin went flump. I feel like you're pushing me into it. It would be a big change," he said eventually. "I didn't mean it that way, but it would be a change for the better, surely," said Melissa, crossing the hall with 2 mugs of tea. We can't go on the same. None of us can. It's not working. And opportunities like this, I'm asking you because it's a great idea, but also because it could be the start of something really big for us all. Crikey. I wonder if they'd get married in our tiny village church, or maybe back where Melissa comes from. I heard Dad shuffle on the sofa. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea, and who wouldn't say yes with that dangling in front of you? But Dad paused and coughed. "Since Rosie died, I haven't had much choice. The kids have been left to their own devices. But they seem happy enough, don't they?" "They're happy, and they're a credit to you. But can't you see what they're missing?" Melissa sounded excited now. "This could be your chance, our chance, to give them that back, and we take it slowly. I've done my homework. I can use my influence, and we'd be doing it together. And if they don't like it, we could always..." But then the old dishwasher started to gurgle and slosh, and despite me straining so hard to hear, I thought I'd burst. The rest was burble. Interesting. Maybe Dad's dating profile would need another update. How much time's that, Luke?
25 minutes, but I started a little late.
Yeah, a couple of seconds late. Do you want me to read another chapter?
Yeah.
Pardon? You're fine. Actually, it's a really short chapter, and it's only 4 pages. Chapter 5, Parents' Evening. At school, the Easter holidays were definitely on the way. Well, not here though, eh? Yeah, we're on holiday permanently at the moment.
No, the Easter holidays are on the way.
They are on the way, but we've cancelled our holiday because we're in lockdown.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we have. Mummy's cancelled her holiday.
What holiday?
We were supposed to be going away next week.
Where?
Well, anywhere, but we're not going anywhere now.
That's not.
Yeah.
No, I mean like the Easter holiday, like Easter.
Well, Easter's not changed, yeah. We're still going to nail it to a cross.
That's what I mean.
Right.
Like, sweet.
At school, the Easter holidays were definitely on the way. Times tables and handwriting's practice were out. Toy Story DVDs and extra playtime were in. Parents' evening rolled round too. It was the usual routine. Mrs. Scott told Dad I was doing well academically, but I needed to be more confident in my own abilities, and wouldn't I like to join a club like drama or debating? What, and be stared at by a bazillion people? No thanks, Mrs. Scott. We found Reggie in the corner of the hall playing games with Charlie and on his mum's smartphone, and dragged my brother to the other end of the school to meet his teacher, Mr. Richards. In some ways, Reggie was completely normal. He did all the revolting things that 8-year-old boys do: farts, burps, picking his nose, calling me names, that kind of thing. He was fearless and was always getting his best friend Charlie into trouble because Charlie was skinny and brainy. Because Reggie was skinny and brainy. Charlie wasn't either of those things. Cheeky and afraid of nothing, that was school Reggie. But home Reggie wasn't always like that. Home Reggie was much smaller, just a short-haired, freckly boy without a mum, really. He didn't remember mum at all, so for years we shared my ragged, picked-over memories instead. If we saw a girl being carried on her mum's shoulders, he'd point and say, "That's like our mummy used to do. That's like our mummy used to do with you, isn't it, Thora?" Or he'd eat his tea and say, "Cheese on toast is our favourite because mum liked it, didn't she, Thora?" And I'd look up and find him by my side, leaning into me, thumb in his mouth. But this was parents' evening, so school Reggie was out to play. It was the last slot of the night, just a few stragglers wandering the corridors. At the door to Reggie's classroom, a gangly spider of a man wearing a visitor badge and clutching an iPad was chatting to Reggie's teacher, all arms and legs. He had folded himself into the doorway with his head on an angle, nearly bumping in the frame. He noticed us and straightened up in the corridor, reaching his full height somewhere up near the light bulbs. "Good evening," he said as he passed us, taking us both by surprise with his deep, plummy voice. "Hello," I said. "Good evening," said Reggie, doing his best imitation. The man smiled thinly and was gone. Dad gave Reggie a light wallop on the shoulder. "Zip it, cheeky. Come on. Let's hear what Mr. Richards has to say. Hang tight there, Thora. We'll be out in 10 minutes. And he gave Reggie a shove into the classroom. When they came out, Dad summed it up in the usual way: could try harder. He talked about how Reggie should spend less time playing games and more time on his homework. And Reggie nodded and said, "Yes, Dad," and we all knew he would take no notice. "Shannon should be here somewhere to pick you up," said Dad as we neared the hall. "Why aren't you coming home? Why aren't we coming home with you?" said Reggie. "The parents need to stay on for a meeting," said Dad. "I'll be home in a bit." Sure enough, Shannon was there, tapping away on a phone, but we were lucky to spot her. Instead of emptying out, the school was filling up. Mums and dads were spilling through the doors and into the hall, which was already 3/4 full and buzzing with chatter and laughter. Through a gap in the crowd, I even saw someone who looked like Melissa talking to her mum on the front row, but my view was soon obstructed and I couldn't be sure. "What's the meeting about?" Reggie asked. "Oh, some government nonsense," said Dad, waving to Shannon. "Changes in the national curriculum, I think." "What's FF?" said Reggie, pointing to a sign on the wall with the letters FF squashed inside a circle and an arrow pointing to a hole. "I don't know," said Dad, bending to give us a kiss. "Something instantly forgettable, I'm sure. Fast forward, food fights, fat fingers, something like that. Right, kids, get out of here." Following Shannon, we bundled our way through the main doors and out into the night. The next morning, I was woken just after dawn by the sound of Dad getting ready for work. He was back on day shifts, the buzz of his electric toothbrush, a bit of grunting as he pulled on his trousers, and a thud as he toppled into the wall while putting on his socks. The soft whump as he let the fridge door slam shut. A carton of Cocoa Moco Moo Moo milk in hand, ready for his breakfast on the go. A clunk as the front door closed, and then the sound of our elderly car being nagged back to life. Dad always drove to work. Last year he'd been given a 21-speed mountain bike by the factory for outstanding service. Shannon had laughed like a hyena when he pulled that out of the car boot, after remarking that he'd need a jet engine strapped to the back to get up the steep valley road from the factory. Dad shoved it into the shed, and that's the last time we saw it. As the sound of Dad's car faded, I held my breath so I could breathe out at the same time as Reggie. In, out, pause, in, out, pause. When I got it right, I could no longer tell us apart. The distant hiss of the first bus into town broke the spell, and I realised I needed a wee. I hopped out of bed. Grey morning light seeped into the room through the curtains, enough for me to see my way to the door. On the landing, I instinctively lifted my foot to clear the winch dock. I'd learnt my lesson the painful way. But on the return journey, the bathroom door was open. A shaft of sunlight from the window struck the landing floor, and at the first I didn't even notice what was there. At the foot of the banisters was a patch of blue carpet, which was much cleaner than its surroundings. Ironically, the winch dock, home to Dad's prize and joy, his best new gadget, had disappeared. Right, so we'll do chapter 6 next time.